Incidentally, the drug test I'd taken that morning had been videotaped for my urinary escapades were now being aired on a movie screen in the company cafeteria at lunchtime. Under the circumstances, I was not the least bit hungry. Empty tray in hand, I wended my way amid occupied lunch tables until I spotted Lonnie waving me over. "Roger," she said, "why don't you sit down and join us?" She gestured, indicated the luscious-looking brunette at her side, the same woman who'd been talking to Lonnie when I was taking my actual drug test that morning, and proceeded to introduce us. "Roger, this is Inger Fondraset from advertising. Inger, Roger Polstein." Inger's deep, exciting brown eyes studied me. "We've met before," she said with a knowing smile, and raised her warm hand to be pressed rather than shook. "Yes, I believe we have, Inger." I released her hand quickly. "Didn't you used to work for, I felt my forehead begin to prickle with kind of a sensation that was uncomfortable. You'll forgive my embarrassment, but it's not every day a movie of my bathroom antics is shown in the company cafeteria for all to see." "I understand completely," said Inger in a soothing contralto. She proffered a handkerchief. "Wipe your nose." "No, just post-nasal drip." "Okay." I accepted the handkerchief. "It was a Cartier," or something like that. "Yes," Inger resumed, referring to my previous and uncompleted question. "You might remember from when you worked here in mid-administration 10 years ago that I was a mere secretary in HR or Human Resources then. Now I'm head of advertising." "Ah," I said, nodding. "How was your little tete-a-tete with my boss, Mr. Schofield, today?" "Well, why don't you sit down and join us, Roger?" suggested Lonnie. "I couldn't," I said, about to head off in another direction. "It's my first day back at the office in 10 years. I'm still a bit disoriented and a little queasy and dizzy from the Maloril. I take 50 milligrams a night, usually with a double shot of Jim Beam." Inger flashed her eyes at me. Her cream-colored skin had a porcelain scrub quality to it. Her facial bone structure was sturdy yet feminine, with an Italian cast, and the texture of her upswept dark hair held in place by a plastic combed fastener of I don't know what color, brown. Her hair was coarse, with sparkling sheen, however. And then instead, said Inger Fondraset, moistening her lips, "Meet Lonnie and I for drinks at the Orange Tree Lounge, if you will, in the underground Argo Towers Mall after work, say around 6 p.m. Inger leaned forward, and under the big buttoned yellow alpaca blouse she wore, her delicate bosom swelled with delight. I thought. "All right, then," I said. "See you both at the Orange Tree Lounge tonight." I said goodbye, and without further ado, and my empty food tray in hand, moseyed off. But instead of leaving the cafeteria, as was my intention after a rather embarrassing introduction to an attractive young woman, Inger, I decided to occupy a table clear across the cafeteria from Lonnie and Inger Fondraset at the far end, but still within eyeshot of them. I had the better part of an hour to kill and wanted to meditate on the upcoming cocktail hour tonight with Inger and Lonnie. "May I sit down here?" I said. Sorry, "May I sit down here?" said the young man, obvious of Latin origin, now at my table. "Be my guest," I said, motioning him into a seat across from me. Sitting down with his lunch tray, the Latino man said, "My name is Julio Sanchez." "Christ on the cross," I exclaimed. "You're supposed to be out on short-term mental disability. You're not going to bump me from my seat in my office, or your office, after one day, are you, Mr. Sanchez?" "Julio, call me Julio." "That's Julio down by the schoolyard by Paul Simon of Simon and Garfunkel. Who are you? Asked Julio, by the way, raising a well-defined eyebrow. I'm your replacement. My name is Roger Polstein, former junior executive for Sanchez Associates and ex-Xerox Corporation from Rochester, New York, Palo Alto, California, and recently El Segundo, 880 Apollo, and your Rosecrans. Sales and Marketing Department under G.R. Montalvo, and worked with Felicity Woltman and John Backover, who I played golf with in a company tournament in Carlsbad, California, at La Costa Resort. Didn't play great, lost a bet with John Backover and his partner. Played with Pete Coachella. We stayed in the hotel overnight, and somebody stole my pitching wedge when it was at the park at the driving range. I stopped to use the bathroom. They stole my 1967 Wilson Staff Dynapro pitching wedge, which was my favorite. I never was able to replace it. So, I'm your replacement. My name is Roger Polstein. Julio Sanchez explained, Roger, I'm here at the cafeteria to eat lunch because of some free coupons left over from before I went on leave. You are right, I shouldn't be here. Otherwise, I'm on a lunchtime pass from Safety Net Mel Resort across the street from here, where I'm currently a mental patient under the care of Dr. Leonard Neff, psychoanalyst. Good one. He's not a Jungian he's a Reichian therapist, whatever that means. Despite my better judgment, I leaned forward and said to the sleepy-eyed junior executive, Julio, I've been there before myself many times to Safety Net, and have actually been a patient of Dr. Neff. There's been talk about you at the office, Julio. The nostrils of his nose flared. I'm not surprised, he said. Isn't there always talk when some lame-o like myself goes out on disability? What did Mr. Schofield tell you? After reflecting on this morning's events, I told Julio Sanchez about how I'd routinely inquired into the circumstances of his absence and been told by both Monty and Nate Schofield himself that Julio Sanchez had been so anxious about the possibility that he might impulsively ingest Restifugo and kill himself, that he'd gone out in search of a diagnosis which would preclude him from obtaining the drug on contractual grounds. I added that, in my opinion, neither Mr. Schofield nor Lonnie seemed to have much respect or regard for Julio Sanchez anymore, if they ever did. And what was it that Mr. Schofield had said? Julio. That's right. He said, if I remember correctly, Nate Schofield had said that morning, Julio Sanchez, quote, didn't know how to change with the times. Julio cut into his lamb chop, took a small bite. If changing with the times means killing oneself, then Mr. Schofield is right. I don't know how to change with the times that way. But let me tell you something. He sipped from his carton of milk. They don't know the whole story, or if they do, they're not telling it. What really happened, Mr. Sanchez? I prompted him. Have you ever heard of the Restifugo in-house pilot program? Yes, the program where Sanchez employees were offered the chance to take Restifugo free of charge at a $2,000 value before the drug was marketed to the general public. Well, I was chosen against my will to participate in that program, but I resisted. I didn't want to die for the sake of the company. Nonetheless, pressure was brought to bear on me to submit. Pressure from the very top. You mean from the head honcho, Mr. Juan Sanchez himself? I interposed, referring to the company president and CEO. Yes, answered Julio Sanchez. From my father, Mr. Juan Sanchez, who changed the company name from first Sandoz back then to Sanchez Associates. He's the new owner. He wanted to sacrifice his only son, like Abraham in the Bible was willing to do to his son, from God or whoever. That's why I consulted a psychiatrist and ultimately entered a locked nut bin. It was either that or lose my job altogether. I chose short-term mental disability and temporary lodging across the street at Safety Net Mental Resort for the junior handicapped, where currently I'm discussing the whole case with a licensed professional, Dr. Leonard Neff, who believes I have a legal basis to sue my father. I said confidentially in an undertone, but loud enough so Julio could hear. He leaned forward. Did you know that Leonard Neff had a colleague at the old Westwood Hospital near Beechwood, California, Dr. Pullman, who used to chew on a big cigar and wear a flowered polyester short-sleeve shirt and pants and boots, black boots, and sit in a lounge chair. And one of his patients actually murdered him. Did you hear about that? Dr. Neff told me about that. And Dr. Neff's son is a drug addict. His wife is Mrs. Neff. He's also a psychoanalyst. By the way, how could your father want to kill you like that, his own son? I want to know. Julio Sanchez wiped his mouth with a napkin. Some fathers want to stick it to you before the world has a chance to. It's their way of initiating you into adulthood. They call it rites of passage. That sounds like a load of horse shit. It is, my friend. It is. Julio paused, surveying me. You know something, Roger? You appear to be someone who understands my dilemma completely. Maybe even more so than my analyst, Dr. Neff, at Safety Net across the street. There is an explanation for that, Julio, I revealed, repeating myself. You see, I was once in a similar situation to the one you're in now. I talked about that Sickafugo in-house pilot program of 10 years ago. Well, do tell. Yep, coming down in the manuscript. During the Sickafugo pilot program, several of us got sicker than was intended. How sick? Broke in Julio. Intuitively, I answered, that's exactly what I'm here to find out. The magnitude of my illness, its repercussions, and what, if any, recourse I have in the matter. Originally, I had returned to the company because I missed the old day-to-day routine, and because Lonnie had advised me to apply as Julio's substitute and stand-in employee on a temp basis. But now I realized after the fact that indeed I had returned to Sanchez Associates to recover crucial information regarding why I was still suffering from an illness left over from 10 years ago, information regarding why I was terminated as an employee and didn't show up for my own going away party, a party which as time progressed appeared more and more hypocritical in light of my cerebral demise. I asked Julio what the visiting hours were across the street at Safety Net Mental Resort for the junior handicapped, and if I could visit them later on to report my findings and perhaps exchange vital information with the young man. I'd be happy to receive you as a visitor, Roger, or even as a bunkie if you want to check in, said the sleepy-eyed Latino before we said farewell, auf Wiedersehen, and went our separate ways. After lunch, having obtained boss Nate Schofield's permission, I ascended by elevator to the third-floor library on a pretense of perusing the time-card Bible, but the real reason for being there was to search back in time through the company's historical newsletters, now cataloged on microfiche in order to read about the Sikafugo pilot program of 10 years ago and discover what, if anything, was reported about myself. As it turned out, the March 1983 issue of the tablet Sanchez Associates Company newsletter bore a front-page headline that I don't think I'd ever seen. Sikafugo subject Roger Polstein contracts schizophrenia, undifferentiated type, possibly even what's now known as dual personality, or this and that, schizoid. Man, this long-term side effect hope to be offset in future verbal apologies forthcoming. And then a three-column article that I read of approximately 180 words, maybe 200 words, transfigured by what I prefer to call a heightened consciousness. I dashed to the payphone on a nearby wall and placed a call to my former publicist, Glenn Noble, one of whose functions had been to supply me with black market medication called Meloril that quelled my frequent auditory and visual hallucinations. Glenn, I announced, cupping my hand over the telephone mouthpiece for privacy, I have found out why it's been necessary for you to procure Meloril for my hallucinations. I expelled a stifled breath. I suffered side effects from a pilot program at Sanchez Associates back in 1983. Never mind the details. And that's how you contracted schizophrenia, said Glenn Noble, from a drug pilot program? What gives? I told Glenn Noble about the newsletter headline in the tablet newsletter. Had you never read the article before? How could a debacle of that size pass you by unnoticed, Roger? I explained, I've had so many amnesia blackouts that half my life, maybe three-quarters, is a mystery, just a blank page. I must have blocked out the whole episode. Perhaps I did read the article when it was first published, but then, because of the horror, it was arrested in my subconscious mind for the next decade. Only now am I able to comprehend the situation in its entirety and subsequently deal with the emotional fallout. What are you going to do? Asked my former publicist. I'm going to get to the bottom of this, I said. When I returned to my cubicle in Meta Administration on the second floor, the Hungarian Human Resources woman, Miss Kimberlane, was waiting for me in my seat, a frightful scowl on her etched on her Slavic features. And that's where we're going to have to end. We'll be continuing with the junior executive next time with the conclusion. I'm sorry about that.